Welcome. We are here today to be able to do a presentation, an overview of the functionality of FoodSafe Pro. It is an overview to be able to give USDA, FDA, general users and people that we work with on a regular basis a deeper understanding of how the systems work, how you're able to pull reporting and understand the systems at a higher level. During the meeting, if you wouldn't mind, please ask questions in the Q&A or directly to chat, and we'll answer them as quickly as possible. So today we have for our presenters, Andrew Lorenz. He is the founder and president and our chief visionary for everything that We Are Food Safety does. He'll be presenting alongside Abbey Davidson. She is one of our food safety quality and assurance experts on the team, and somebody that many of you probably work with on a regular basis. They'll be going over FoodSafe Pro, and we'll be able to be diving into anything that you all need to know. And at that note, Abbey, if you want to run with it, we would greatly appreciate it.
Great, thanks. Just to confirm, you can hear me and see my screen.
Correct, I can hear you and see your screen.
Wonderful, thanks. Well, thanks for everyone jumping on. Eric, thanks for the introduction. As Eric stated, we are going to be doing an overview of the reporting area of FoodSafe Pro. That is generally the main area where auditors, inspectors, and guest access assigned users log in to view data, to look at HACCP plans, view supporting documents, and the like within FoodSafe Pro. So looking at my main screen here, this is the first login screen that we log into. And what we're looking at is the login screen for the CAC, also deemed the CAC or the Command and Control Center. This is the part of the software, again, where food safety plans reside, where forms are built, where supporting documents, test results are stored, items of that nature. That's different. I just want to pop over here 1 second to show you what the tablet software looks like. This is what data entry users use. This is the production employees, quality assurance team, production staff that enter data, and this is not necessarily where the data is viewed. So jumping into the login screen here, each facility will have their own username for any guest access personnel that need it. So whether that is a regulator, whether that is a third-party auditor, or some other person needing to come in and look at the data, you will have your own username and password that the establishment will give you. Upon entry into the software, this is the screen that pops up that guest access users are able to view. What this screen gives you access to, again, is active HACCP plans, active food safety plans, including SSOPs and GMPs. The humane handling program is built in here, for example, that's a GMP. Cooking data, the tablet data that's entered in on the tablet version of the software and displayed under this reporting section. Supporting documents show up here, flow diagrams show up here, and many other items that are shown up on this category. Category column on the left. So we're just going to start at the top. Eric and Drew, if you do see questions roll in, please interrupt me, and we'll just start at the top and go down.
Excellent, thanks so much, Abbey. And a reminder, if you have questions, just throw them into Q&A or directly into chat.
Perfect. So starting at the top, kind of the bread and butter of FoodSafe Pro is holding on to the food safety plans. Our team works with each facility to make sure that the plans are built so that they're exactly what the facility is doing and are covered as far as all regulatory and quality basis, especially in the instance of third-party audits and certification. So under plan review, I actually clicked this arrow right to the left of plan review, which shows a drop-down that we then can see many options to select to view. So the first one, of course, is the hazard analysis. I'm just going to click on that once, and then underneath this hazard analysis panel, this shows all of our hazard analyses that we have in this load for this particular plan. Please note that this is just an overview. This is not a current client's data. Of course, we don't want to do that. So you'll see a lot of information in here that's not necessarily plans that we would have built for our clients. It's specifically just for overview purposes. Same thing with the HACCP plan. If I select HACCP plan, this is where we are going to see all of our plans associated with critical control points and the regulatory requirements associated with those. So I'm going to jump back up to hazard analysis and go ahead and just double click, randomly, maybe just this livestock slaughter hazard analysis. So what I did there was I double clicked to view this hazard analysis, and it pops up on the main screen. Of course, it starts with the hazard analysis title, who the company name is, the date that the hazard analysis was signed and who it was signed by, who's included on the HACCP team, any changes made that have occurred since the last reassessment, and then we scroll down to our process steps. It should be all listed in order. And just for example, here at the receiving step, we see an outline of the step description, which I believe really does help regulators and auditors have an understanding of what happens at that step. So the step description is pretty valuable. And then as we scroll down, we go through the different types of hazard analysis and see whether chemical, physical, biological, or even radiological hazards are likely to occur. If they are, we document why. And if they're not, we also document why. Again, of course, we're looking at all the regulatory requirements of a hazard analysis. So that's basically what a hazard analysis looks like within the system. It is understood that this is different than what USDA and state inspection is typically used to seeing with a chart format. However, this flows very, very easily and is pretty easily understood. So one thing to note as well, in basically any food safety screen that we're going to be going into, we can also export this plan, this hazard analysis, into Word just by hovering our mouse over this file path location and selecting click to open file from disk. This document then opens up in the Word document, and one feature that's really great with Word is using the Control F feature to be able to search for something specific that you're looking for. Really, it's just a find feature. Now, it was brought up in the last session that now that we're in a Word document, we're able to edit the hazard analysis. And that's absolutely correct, but we have it stated so that anything that is not in the software anymore, if it's exported to Word, that is not the official HACCP plan. It will always reside under the Food Safe Pro system. So while edits can be made to this Word document, we always suggest that users go back to Food Safe Pro to be able to see the official working document for that facility. So I thought that was very important to know, as there's questions about that. So that works the same way for all of the hazard analyses, again, just by double clicking, and it opens up within this view. Or you can hover your mouse over the click to open file from disk option, and the hazard analysis, the HACCP plan, the decision document, whatever you may be looking at will open up in a Word document as long as Word is on that computer. So walking into what a HACCP plan looks like then, again, we could just go into the livestock slaughter plan, for example. Again, just by double clicking on that title, we see that this is a HACCP plan for livestock slaughter. Again, company name, who signed the plan and the date, who's on the team for the HACCP committee, any changes made since the last reassessment. We also outline in here records associated with this HACCP plan, and then we dive right into the CCP. So of course, in slaughter, regulatory-wise, we have to have zero tolerance, and this dives right into the step description, what type of CCP it is, the CCP description, and then just further on, again, what's required by regulatory or third-party audits is all outlined right here. Now, one thing to note with our clients is that we do utilize a document library that uses a number and it's really alphanumeric system, where you can go and look up the supporting documents specific to whichever area you happen to be looking at. So for example, this area has a document 27A1. Now, I'll show you where the supporting documents reside within Food Safe Pro as we move forward through the software, but that is one thing to note. Moving on down here, Drew did bring up in the last training or last overview, that the corrective actions can be either canned, basic USDA required corrective actions, or the establishment can pull in their own. We also include direct observation, again, required by regulation, verification procedures, and everything else associated. One document that I would like to dive into also is the decision document here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time over this, but what this decision document does is basically combines your HACCP plan and your hazard analysis into one main document for all food safety plans, so it's easily viewable in one document by whoever may be looking at it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit View Decision Document. It's pulling in quite a bit of data, so it looks like it's not going to pull up. It just takes a second. Again, I think we had 6 or 7, maybe 8 HACCP plans in there, so it's compiling all that data and it's looking to display it. So we're now in the decision document. Again, we look at the company name here. The plans are numbered, which makes it very easy for navigation. And all of this information is just associated with HACCP plans and hazard analyses in one area. This is very valuable for auditors and regulators. This document should answer virtually every question you would have about the food safety system within that facility. Moving on down here, here are the SSOPs. So again, just by double clicking on the title, it pulls up the SSOPs for review. Now, I know, again, this is a demo load for this overview. This Listeria control program we do have built, however, not all regulatory requirements are complete within this program. This just documents the basic setup within FoodSafe Pro of how to build a Listeria control module. And this is where all our active clients will have their Listeria control program in place. We do have modules set up so that facilities can choose alternative 1, 2, or 3, or if they're using more than one, we can also set up those alternatives in here as well. An area that USDA and regulators do not see, that is not within this guest access area, is the module of how to set this up. Many of our modules have wizard-based systems so that we can go through and pretty easily build these plans for each client. Those are updated as needed, again, to meet regulatory requirements. Is there any questions as far as HACCP plans, SSOPs, decision document, or Listeria control? If not, I'm going to go ahead and move on down to GMPs.
As of right now, Abby, nobody's asking any questions, but please remember, if you have any, ask them directly into the Q&A or straight into chat, and we will jump right on top of them.
Great, thanks, Eric. Okay, so the next area is the GMP area. One thing to note is before I really dive into that is the plan review area and the GMPs area. Those are the two areas where the food safety plans reside. So these top two areas here. The last area that's more so associated with food safety plans specifically is the flow diagrams, which we will talk about here in a second. So by selecting the arrow next to GMPs, there's a drop-down list here of GMPs, prerequisites, preventive, and then ancillary SSOP. Drew brought up this morning, not many people may be associated what is technically an ancillary SSOP, and Drew, if I misspeak, please correct me here, but this is just another area where we can outline a procedure that we may not necessarily want to have within our general SSOP. Specifically, that could be something like a maintenance program, or specifically that could be something like, I don't see a humane handling program fitting in there very well, but that is something that could happen. It's just another way to identify a plan without calling it an SSOP.
Right. So we'll see that like for condensation programs in plants or sanitary dressing procedures. Sometimes they'll go in there. It's really meant for a place to catch SSOP programs without trying to modify the software to put it into the basic static SSOP. Hopefully I explained that right.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Drew. Okay, so by selecting items within each area, it doesn't look like we have everything preloaded in here, which is completely fine. But if each plant did have a prerequisite, for example, program in place or more than one, you would see a list here, which you can double click and select from to view that plan. So looking at GMP, we do have this test GMP, and I do just want to outline, it looks virtually the same as the other plans. We have the title, the company name, who signed it, and the date printed, and the effective date. What the name is, again, the procedure, monitoring, requirements, and then validation. Again, Drew stated this morning that sometimes there are procedures in place that don't necessarily require validation or verification, which typically we do reflect by NA within the software. I'm going to jump on down to the ancillary, the preventive program, just to show you another version of what a preventive program looks like or other program looks like. This is built more so like our clients that are currently jumping on with our services. This is more so what their plans look like at this point, or their programs. Okay, and with that, I'm going to jump on how to view tablet data if there's no questions at this point. Okay. So moving on to tablet data here, just a reminder, jumping back to the tablet software, this is the main screen of what the users and production employees see as they're entering data into the software. Now, again, that's not where the data is viewed. The data is viewed under this reporting screen under tablet form data. So for sakes of this overview, there's roughly 50 forms in here, 51 forms that have been entered into here. Now we have clients, as Drew stated this morning, that have hundreds of thousands of records that have been on board with We Are Food Safety for 6+ years now. If you do hit show all in one of those plants, it will take a while for the query to populate as there's a lot of data to pull in. That's where this limit query to top 200 comes in and is a very attractive feature with the software, as it limits the query to the last 200 records that have been entered into the software. That's basically enough for most small plants. Drew, would you say roughly a month of data, if not less? 20 to 30 days probably of data. So that is a good tool to use if you're looking specifically at last week's data, or sometime this month looking for a listeria test or items of that nature.
No, I agree. It's trying to narrow it down on some of the clients is the key, because there's so much data trying to digest. I was looking at one the other day. They have almost 400,000 records in the system. Trying to digest that in mass is almost impossible.
So yeah, perfect. So if I did want to limit the query to the top 200, I can go ahead and select that and hit search. However, you're just going to be seeing the same 51 forms that have populated here. We can also select by a date range if we would like. So I could start, I don't know, maybe from the beginning of January. Just going January 1st to today. And then selecting search. We're limited now to 44 records. We can also search by a specific date here. So if I wanted to look specifically at yesterday's data, I'll go ahead and select that date, hit search. Here's all the data that was entered yesterday. And then we're also able to select a data query by form type. So each user or each facility has their own way to identify their form types. So CCPs and direct observation forms, of course, will be under the HACCP area. Pre-op records will show up under pre-op. SSOP operational, of course, will show up under that. If there is any SOP records that the facility has given guest access to view, you can select that and those will show up. That's important to note because most of the time SOPs are not something that is necessarily regulatory or third-party required. Therefore, we're able to limit that so that the facility can still track that, but auditors and regulators are not able to view that data. That's more internal data. We have this other task option as well. So if we have a program built that's assigned under the other program area and a form assigned to that, then we're also able to view other task form types. The maintenance area, pretty straightforward, specific to maintenance tasks. This could include work orders, among other things. And then the calibration area. So if I select calibration and hit search, I also have the date selected in that search. So be aware of that the date does not go away if you select form type. Now, if I want to go ahead and hit form type calibration again, we should see more than one record. And then the last area, or the last two areas, is for most of the time our plants, they do their pre-shipment from this area. So if I hit show only non-verified results, you will see only records that have not been verified within the system. Again, I need to deselect any other search options before I do that. And we can see that 17 records have not been pre-shipped just yet. They're not verified. And then the last one is if we do want to search by a specific form name, we definitely can do that as well. And we also, if we're looking specifically for a pre-op that may have been done yesterday, we can search by date and form name as well, which really limits your query and slows down the data review, or speeds up the data review, sorry. Now, I'm talking a lot about how to look up a form, but now we want to view the form. So let's say that I would like to see the CCP ZT, so zero tolerance for variety meats from today. I would then go ahead and double click that title, and this opens up to show us the fields that are associated, or the fields that have been filled out for that form. We can also see that there's some attachments that have been attached to this record as well. These attachments show up in many different ways. Many clients do use forms to attach test results to. So they may have a form that shows up as a hold log, and they attach test results for any lab results that they do receive under the attachments. The attachments also exhibit pictures that users are able to take with their tablets on the production floor. So as Drew again stated this morning, for zero tolerance failures, we have a lot of clients that do take a picture with a camera on the tablet, and those will show up under this attachment area. But going back up to the top here, we can see the form name, the date it was started, and the time, and who was operating the form at that time. We can see that this form has not yet been verified because there's no date, time, or name under this verified row. And then we can see the fields and the data associated with each field. One, again, really attractive feature with FoodSafe Pro is that every time a user logs in and does something with the software, as far as the tablet data entry goes, we have a record of it. So this is an automatic time and date stamp that you can see under this right-hand column right here, where our clients, not that they would ever, but there's no dry labbing available anymore. Every time somebody goes in and does a task within the software, it time and date stamps that time when it's completed. If there is a comment associated with this record, there would be another row right under this WIP row that would say comments, and then there would be a comment associated with that. And I can show that in another record. One other thing to note as well is under the attachments area, this is where we view pictures and where we view attachments. Now, if I wanted to view specifically this decision addendum for peracetic acid, I can then go ahead and double click, and this attachment pops up pretty simply. Same thing with this picture. And then down here at the bottom, again, this ties into verification and records review. We can see that this record is not verified at this point. Now I can go into this hold log from yesterday and show what the comments look like. You can see here there's that comments row where Ethan had added an E. coli test as a comment. The other thing that we can do from this screen is we can export this data to Excel. So if I specifically just want to export this form data, I can go ahead and click the Excel button. It's going to ask for a report name. Most of the time you can name it whatever you want, or I just hit save most of the time. And the data will pop up in an Excel spreadsheet. Again, this works the same as the exporting for the Word documents for the HACCP plans. You can edit the information in the Excel spreadsheet, but nothing is edited within FoodSafe Pro. So that will always be the default place to go to look for true records and up-to-date HACCP plans. If we wanted to export all of this information, all of these forms, which I'm not going to do, it might take a second with 51 records, but I could also export to Excel from this screen. So if you wanted to export all of your pre-ops for the last month, you can go through, select your query, and then hit export to Excel, and that data will pull in into an Excel spreadsheet for you. Now I'm looking for a record with a corrective action here. Let's see, I know I built one yesterday with a 0 tolerance failure. Let me find that really quick.
While Abby is looking for that record, once again, if you have any questions, please just place them inside of the Q&A window or directly into chat. Thank you.
Okay, so here it is right here. This form is underlined, and what this is showing, underlined means that there is a corrective action associated with that record. Down here at the bottom, you can see that it says records in blue contain a corrective action, where by highlighting that form, we can see that that fecal check failed. So what I'd like to do to view that corrective action is go ahead and double click that record. And now we can double click the blue text and our corrective action will pop up. This is everything associated with a HACCP plan corrective action that's regulatory required. This corrective action probably is not filled in as in-depth as it should be. Again, we are working with a demo, so this is not a true record. And the last thing to note is that if you do see records in red that are records that have red text on them, that means that they have not been signed by a plant employee yet. Most of the time, that's probably because a check is still in progress or they're waiting on test results or something of that nature. With that, I do want to state that this is one of the areas that USDA, FDA, state inspection, any other regulators, as well as third-party auditors will be in probably 40% of the time. So this is an area you would definitely want to get familiar with. That being said, I am curious if there is any questions at all with this area before I move on to continue talking about the other areas within the reporting screen of FoodSafe Pro. Okay, I will go ahead and move on. If you do have a question, go ahead and throw it up there. Eric can interrupt me. This reports area is the next area we can go into. As far as USDA goes and FDA and state plants, we do need to have a product report per HACCP category. Now, by selecting this report name and going to click execute, again, this report name will pop up asking you to name it. I'm going to go ahead and select save. And an Excel document will pop up here with any products that have been listed within FoodSafe Pro's inventory system, and all of the regulatory data should be pulled in here. So of course, plants that do slaughter, cook operations, and raw processing will see all of those different HACCP categories and the products associated with them listed out with the requirements needed for the description listed here. I do want to note that some plants may not use this area, as some plants do utilize other software like QuickBooks, specifically for invoicing or product control at that point. This is a very, very attractive tool, again, within FoodSafe Pro, and we really ask that a lot of our clients do use this. It really helps us as well when we are looking at their data. Okay, so moving on now to the next area is supporting documents here. Let's see. Who should I log in as me?
Yeah, you're gonna have to log in as yourself or stretch the screen.
Just go ahead and log in as me really quick. Sorry about that, everybody. This opened up again.
What you can do if you get that is if you grab the bottom corner of that and pull it so the window opens up, that sidebar window would open up.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks. Now, this display looks incredibly different than what we were just on. This is what the plant management is able to see. We are going to go back under the reporting area, but that's just a little peek into what the management does see. So back to supporting documents here. This is the area that Drew stated drag over. This supporting documents area houses quite a bit of information. A lot of our clients utilize this very in-depth. It's a great tool to get rid of your filing cabinets within your office, because this is a way to control your documents, your lab results, your prior HACCP plans, anything that's in your filing cabinets within the offices. This is a great tool to get rid of all that paperwork. So there's a lot of options in here for basically a cache or a storage place for specific documents. As I stated previously, I'm sure everyone remembers that reference to document 27A1. This is the same area that you would go to then search for that document. So I'm going to pull up 27A1 here. What I would do if I wanted to view that supporting document is double click. It opens up in a file explorer, and then we're able to double click again. And here is that document. The way to pull up anything else within this area, if there was information thrown in each of these areas, is by doing the same thing. So you would double click the title, it would open up in a file explorer, and then you would double click the title again to view what that may be. So if there is an NR that a client has dragged and dropped within this regulatory non-compliance report area, and we needed to see that, we would then double click and then double click again within the file explorer, and the NR would open up.
Abby, can you, so for validation documents as an example, to update to make sure they have the latest and greatest, if you hit the @ sign?
Sure, yep. Good point, Drew, thank you. So let's say that management has added a document on their computer, but it has not been updated on your computer just yet. Or if you're looking for a specific document you know is in this area, but it's not, that you don't see, by selecting the @ sign in the top right area of each box will pull down any information that has been added.
And if there's nothing, it's going to do what it's doing right now. It's checking the different directories, looking for it, querying the database as to whether there's anything it's supposed to be pulling down for this user's access. And so if you give it a second, it should. I don't think there's anything in there. While that's doing that, Abby, can you pull up the tablet and go through the cache records? Show them how to see records if the Wi-Fi dies?
Sure. So if the Wi-Fi does die, clients will see that this offline mode button is selected here. There'll be a prompt stating that there is not a strong Wi-Fi connection, and if they want to switch to offline mode. Most of the time they will say yes.
And so then if they go into offline mode, if you can jump back to that main screen, they'll start saving records and you'll see them in work in progress. I don't think we have any in there right now, but this is where, so this would be the equivalent of if you're an auditor, and there's a paper-based system and you want to see the records, you got to go find the clipboard. This is the equivalent. They actually have to, the records are on the tablet. Go back to menu and then settings, please. And then, yep. And then hit view all cache records. Down just a little bit, right column, up a little bit. There you go. So these are the records that this tablet has created. So if Abby double clicks one of them, and it shouldn't matter which one, this is the basic form. It's ugly compared to or it's uglier, I should say, compared to the other forms, but this is the data that's been captured. You can hit done and go back. So what we do is the data is written to that tablet before it's sent to the server. So, and Eric might want to jump in and explain a little bit of the technical at some point, but the basic gist is we save the data in multiple locations basically simultaneously so that if something does happen, we don't lose the records. What could happen is the tablet itself could be smashed. At that point, we would have to pull the hard drive out. Any records that hadn't been pushed up yet, we would have to recover from that hard drive. If there was a catastrophic failure, and that hard drive was shot, then we would lose the records. It'd be the equivalent of somebody dropping their clipboard in the grinder. Basically.
So I think this is an important concept. I think that people keep in mind is that the data is always available at all times. We've designed the system so that way, if let's say that the Wi-Fi breaks down, right? It happens. We all know that within our industry, we're in some remote locations, right? And some of the buildings are designed with some pretty heavy duty concrete and steel and other material between spaces. So it is possible that something happens in which it might not be communicating immediately right that second when you're going through there and looking at records. But if you are doing an audit, or if you're going in there and doing an inspection, you need that data. It is available. And so we make sure that everything is available asynchronously and synchronously, as well as being able to be pulled into the system for reporting. We know that the production is happening quickly. We know that these businesses generate revenue and employ their employees when they're in production mode. And we know that it's important to make sure that our food supply is safe and secure. And so by working all together in the ecosystem and making sure that the digital records allow for that flexibility and that guarantee of protection is critical, I think, to the success moving forward with the speed at which this industry moves.
Thank you.
Perfect. Drew, is that all you'd like to show in the tablet for now?
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you. Sorry to jump in.
No, I'm glad you did. Thank you. Yep, so I think we're pretty much covered under this supporting documents section here. Again, if you're looking for something that you know should be there that you're just not seeing, one, you can ask plant management, but really the first place to go is go ahead and select the @ sign that will pull down any documents that should be there. Okay, so moving on to the next area is viewing flow diagrams. FoodSafe Pro has a really nice tool to build flow diagrams within the software. It makes it very easy, which is really nice for me when I'm building these, to be honest. So by looking at a flow diagram, we can only view the flow diagrams that are associated with an active HACCP plan. Point being that plans that are not active, we don't really need everybody to see. If we're working on a new plan, working on a draft plan, things of that nature, flow diagrams don't need to be viewed. So under this column listed active, we can only view the flow diagrams that have a check mark with them. So if we did want to view maybe the raw non-intact flow diagram, I would just highlight it once and hit build process flowchart. Now, of course, for the sake of this overview, we don't have many steps listed in each HACCP plan, but most of the time our raw non-intact HACCP plan has anything from 12 to 14 steps or 12 to 16 steps.
If you hit the food safety plan overview, the top one, that one.
Oh, great. Yep. Awesome. Thanks, Drew. Yep, so this is a great demonstration of what the flow diagrams look like within the software. You know, more specifically for livestock slaughter, you're going to see items like stunning and bleeding and shackling and hanging and things like that. I believe really that's all. Do you have anything else to say about flow diagrams, Drew? Pretty straightforward, I would say.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Okay, and then really the biggest last area we're going to be diving into today is the cooking records. This area is where any company that has any sort of cooking within their facility most likely will have their cooking documents. That being said, we also do have clients that do keep track of their cook information, their CCPs and direct observations and such under the tablet data. So as regulators and auditors are getting familiar with their plants, that's definitely a question to ask if you're not able to look for that information on your own to identify where that data is being stored. The cooking records area ties specifically to our RTE module within the tablet, where plant production employees or management are able to either manually create cook jobs and track the data associated with that, or automatically pull that in with data loggers. Now, specifically, we use MatchTech probes currently we recommend with clients. I believe we're still under development with BAPI probes. Is that correct, Drew?
Yes, it is. And if you go to the RTE piece, it's similar to this. There's actually a fake record you can show in there. No,
okay.
in the CAC, I'm sorry.
No, okay. RTE piece. Okay.
And by way of explanation, we use different modules for different kinds of cooking records. It just depends on the client and their setup, what kind of smokehouses they have. Do they have oil bath ovens? Are they using steam kettles? So there's different modules that interact with different types of things. RTE is the newest iteration, so that's the one I was playing with the most. But as you can see, there's a fair amount of data that you can see there. Go ahead, Abby, I'm sorry.
No, thank you. Yeah, so this works basically the same type of data view that we would see underneath the other cooking records area. So same type of feature, we can search by a date. If we enter, if we can enter a date range and hit search by date, and a date range will populate. And then we can also search by a lot number if we know a specific lot number that we're looking for. And then again, we also can select show all, and any cook record that has been entered in since that client has started with We Are Food Safety will populate. Again, that potentially could be a very large query, so I would try and find another way to pull in that data before you select show all. I believe that's the majority of what we'd like to walk through today. A couple things to know about the remainder of the line items under the category column is that each client, again, does use different areas within the software. We went over the top areas that are the regulatory required and most of the third-party required information. However, other areas of the module are areas that clients may use that are specific to each client, in that you definitely want to have a conversation with the facility you're walking into to see what areas they are using. That being said, you can also click into those areas and look for data. If there's not data in there, of course, they're not using it. A lot of our clients don't use this humane handling program. We actually have a GMP built for them for humane handling. So that would be located under this GMP area. And I apologize, it might not necessarily be a GMP. It could be a prerequisite or one of these other items. However, this is another area that is specific for humane handling that a client could use if they did choose to.
And things to keep in mind as well is that we use some phrases like short forms and long forms and such, and I know Abby may have addressed this slightly, but we have forms that are highly standardized, the types of form that we know everybody's going to need for almost every single program. But part of the flexibility of the way this has been designed is to allow for clients to capture any of the data that is required, along with data that is important to running their business or things that they want to have in order to make decisions later. So it is a data focused system that allows you to use that information to make, stronger business decisions. And part of the business decision is always safety and security of the food supply. So if you ever run into a client or somebody that you're working with on an inspection or an audit, or if clients are on the phone right now and listening, think about all the data that you need to capture, and we'll work with you to make sure that it's installed inside of the long form. And you have the ability to put it in there based upon your business. So it gives you a lot of the flexibility that you need to be able to, use data to make good business analytics.
One thing I would add to that when we're talking about can forms, can you go back to the tablet quickly, Abby?
Yep.
If you look at the audit forms, these would be examples of a can form. So if Abby clicks net weights, please.
Sure.
And plus, let's go ahead and just, they would fill out the header information, but then they have to weigh so many items. So if she hits the plus sign, it's going to start creating lines. And then they would enter that data. In the event that it doesn't meet an individual line's maximum allowed variation weight, it's going to kick her a CA1. If it fails as a total lot, it would kick a CA2 form, a corrective action 2 form. And so it's, yeah, exactly what she's doing. It's in accordance with the NIST's standards for food labeling. It's canned. Any of our clients can use it. And if you follow the protocol, you're either in a 5, 15, or a 35 test run, depending on how much product you make. Most of the smaller clients are, 5. But this is how they can verify and record the fact that they've done net weight audits against their products. And I don't know if we have any GFSI auditors, but this is one of the tools that you would look at. So if Abby, if you jump back to the CAC, please.
Yep.
And she goes to MAV. You can show, I think there's 2 now. Well, there's 1. There's the MAV report for what was done. So again, we try to make those, as Eric was saying, those short forms or the canned forms or the, unique to everybody form in the food industry. We put them in the audit forms and the clients use them that way. Other things, for example, if I'm not a poultry slaughter, I'm not going to use the poultry slaughter logs. So, if it's, so for poultry audits, you're not going to see this if it's a red meat plant. Having said that, if you're a poultry slaughter facility, you'll see lots of records in here. Were there any questions about that? You guys are really afternoons. Everybody must have had lunch and,
or maybe I'm just doing a really good job, Drew.
Well, there's that too.
Well, if you have any questions, it doesn't seem like we do right now. Is there anything else that you want to cover, Abby?
I think we covered the majority of it. I do know that we can make sure my email is available and the rest of the food safety team as well if there is any questions.
If you ever have any questions, please do reach out. Our job is to make sure that data is available, to make sure that the food safety is top of mind. And we know that it is sometimes hard to find information, but we're there to help. And so anything we can do to help, please reach out. We're able to respond pretty quickly. For our inspectors, I want to say thank you so much for the work that you're doing. I know that things are very busy, in particular now. For our producers, thank you again for making sure that there's a food supply in this time of need. This recording will be available shortly once it processes. So if you have any colleagues or anybody that you would like to have review this as well, they're going to have access. And if there's anybody that needs to work on their own or ask review, it will be available for you as well. So on that note, I think that we will close out, and thank you both very much, Abby and Drew, for answering questions. Hopefully this was as useful for you as it was for me. And all of you take care and take care of your loved ones. Thank you very much.
Have a good one, everybody. Bye.